My name is Tammy Schmoon, and I'm the Executive Director of Family Counseling Centers and a registered psychologist and registered play therapist. Today I'm going to be speaking to all of you about the impact of divorce and separation on children. And in our next video, I will talk about what you can do to help children through this tumultuous time. These sorts of issues are quite common, something we see in private practice a lot and through a lot of the seminars we offer. And it seems to be becoming more and more common. And we're happy to see that parents are now seeking counseling for kids, but there are plenty of things you can do without seeking counseling, and that's what we're here to run this video on, or this video series on. So first, we're going to talk about the stages of divorce and separation on children, and then what is typical with each age of child. So your first stage with the separation is an increase in marital conflict and the decision to separate. This phase is marked by parents fighting more. There's a lot of tension. Some parents will stonewall, meaning they won't talk to each other at all, but you can tell the tension's palpable for these kids. They know something's amiss. At this point, it's really chaotic and really tense. It's disorganized. Parents are trying to figure out new places to live, how assets are going to be divided. More often than not, there's one parent who's really not happy about the process, whereas one wants to leave. I mean, this isn't always the case, but regardless, the child's world is turned upside down, and the two people, he or she loves the most, have decided not to be together anymore. So at stage one, a child is actually needing the parent more than they ever have before, but often parents are much too preoccupied and stressed out to notice and to give the child what they need. Now, stage two is transitional, meaning the parents have reorganized their homes. They have new places to live. They have a parenting agreement in place, visitation schedules. Kids have often changed schools. There's been changes financially, and attempts to rebuild these new homes are being made. Now, the last of the three stages is we call the third one, the stable phase, is where things have been signed. There's established living arrangements, hopefully permanent. But at this point, and hopefully the kids have a new routine, but the kids are still very vulnerable to stressors, more so than they were before the divorce and separation. Now, boys and girls are a little different, but first let's talk about the ages. So if you have a child anywhere from birth to 2, they're the least impacted in terms of all the other ages, as long as parents are still emotionally available to their kids. But we might see kids at this age with increased sleep disturbances, harder time napping, not wanting to go to bed, waking up. They're more clingy. Now, kids at this age have separation anxiety by about a year anyway, but we'll see an increase in separation anxiety and probably a lot more crying, you'll see, from 0 to 2. Now, 2 to 4 years of age, we're going to see kids with regressive behavior. So maybe they're already toilet trained, but now all of a sudden they're wetting the bed or they can't hold it. They didn't need a blankie and now they do. They didn't need that teddy bear, now they do. So we see a lot of anxiety before bedtime, wanting to maybe sleep in your bed, not wanting to leave you at daycare. So there's an underlying, fear of abandonment that we see at this age, the preschool age. We also see that clinging again, that wanting physical closeness, and we see increases in tantrums and irritability, because 2-year-olds weren't already tantruming enough. Now you're going to see a big increase in tantrums. Now 5 to 8, this is our preschool up to about the 3rd grade. We see overt sadness and anger where they can communicate that, and it's pretty obvious how they're feeling. Many kids this age are feeling rejected. They may feel abandoned, not sure if it was their fault. We might see changes in eating and sleeping, not eating too much or not eating enough, not feeling hungry. And then feeling loyalty conflicts, like they're not sure if they should side with one parent or the other parent, or maybe when they're with that parent, they're siding with that parent, but they're doing whatever they can to stay close to whichever parent they're with. And often they are more likely to connect with the parent that they are struggling with a little bit more, because they don't want to lose that connection. If they feel a parent pulling away, that they will cling more. And lastly, they may try to take on the role as a little adult and try to be another parent. So maybe when mom and dad were together, they were fine, but when they separated, when a little girl is now at dad's house, she tries to be the mom to her younger brother. That's we call parentification, and that is common to see during divorce and separation, where they try to act like a little adult. And there are things parents can do to discourage this sorts of behavior, which we will talk to in our next video. Our last two stages are ages 9 to 12. And at this age, kids are very angry, often very overtly, and it's very intense. Lots of physical complaints about headaches and stomach aches, muscle soreness. They feel a lot of the stress in their bodies more. You might see them being very overactive, trying to avoid thinking and talking about what's going on. So preoccupied with extracurricular activities or spending time with friends. And lastly, they may have a lot of shame around the divorce, feeling that now they're different from their friends, that something might be wrong with them that maybe caused this. And want to forget, they often also align with one parent more than the other. Now, lastly, we see teenagers at 13 and up. And here we see more withdrawal from the family. So they're more likely to want to spend time with friends, to be out of the house. They don't want to deal with either parent if they can, hiding in their rooms, on their phone more, on their iPad more. We see a decreased ability to concentrate, although I would say that would be common across most school-age children, is a decreased ability to concentrate. And also you may see higher risk-taking behaviors, such as sexualized behaviors, truancy, breaking and entering, all kinds of things. Part of this might be a way to work through some feelings, some anger, and a numbing out process that happens. So those are what we see typically with divorce and separation. Now it's good to note that boys respond a little differently. Boys are much more overt with their behaviors, so they're more likely to act out, being physical, tantrums, hitting things, like they're more angry, whereas girls often are more withdrawn and sad. But they often too, there's something called a sleeper effect, where girls won't show signs or symptoms of the impact of the divorce and separation until they're teenagers, if that happened when they were younger. So if you're wondering if you should put both kids in counseling and seek help, if you think your child, your little girl, is doing better than your boy, I would suggest still putting both in, because the girls are less likely to show symptoms. So I look forward to talking to all of you in our next video, saying what to do when with divorce and separation.